5, 4.
What's up, folks? Welcome back to the Fantasy Hustle. I'm your host, John, with my co-host, Bradley, and our special guest for the week, Brendan. How's it going, Brendan? Welcome back to the region. How you doing today?
Oh, man, very excited to be here. You know, love the show since you guys have been doing this. So the fact that I'm here with you recording, couldn't ask for anything more, man. Excited for this.
Well, here's the $20 I promised you. Interesting week here, I must say. Here, not as many upsets as we had in the past, but a couple good storylines, a couple milestones. You know what I mean? First off, we'll just kick into a couple of the games here. Carolina holds off the G-Man.
You go right into the games like that?
You like that?
No foreplay?
You like that boomerism? I don't like the foreplay sometimes.
Okay.
If I'm drunk, then, you know. But appreciate the interruptions in the middle of the sentence.
New producer.
Carolina holds off the G-Men and ODB for a 33-31 win off a Graham Gano 63-yarder. Is it tied for longest in NFL history? Honestly, I know we had that kind of split in our predictions last week, Brad, so I'm thinking like, oh, we got this on lock here. Was not the case. Was not the case.
You mean tied for the longest game winner?
Game winner, yes.
Yeah. Actually, this was my survivor pool. I thought I was dead, and then I went nuts when you hit this. So, yeah, that was kind of crazy, and it's crazy because kickers have been so bad this year. So, Gano hits a 63-yarder, and that's a big deal because it's the longest, like you said, longest ever to win a game.
Yeah.
Tied for the longest ever.
You know, touchdown ODB getting his first touchdown.
And touchdown pass.
You know, thanks for finishing my semicolon there.
That's what we did.
And also Antonio showed up. He grabbed a couple TDs, kind of shut the banter down, and then he threw something off a rooftop. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, as you mentioned, ODB showed up for sure, and I think that was pretty good to see for his owners here, even though he's a little disgruntled up in New York.
You do know it's not ODB, right?
OBJ.
Is this where we're going?
So that's the last one. I'm done.
Okay.
Yeah, I like ODB as well.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is. I like ODB. You can keep using it. It's our show.
Yeah, I agree. You little bum.
Well, you guys gave me this spot where I'm standing over you. I feel like I'm like I feel like I'm a judge.
Hey, it's okay. We thought Stratton unplugged the microphone, but apparently he unplugged the wrong one. But it's all good. But on the other side of kicking, yeah, Graham Gano went out and kicked a tying an NFL record. Mason Crosby, a clutch kicker, missing 4 field goals and a PA team. Definitely costly, which I ain't going to bitch about. But, hey, take care of the Lions for us. I like that. Losing to the Lions there, 31-23. And a couple other controversial calls. Jason Garrett not going for a 4th down, electing to punt. And that came back and bit him in the ass where his counterpart, Sean McVay, 4th and inches, goes for it and ends up getting the game there. So you could tell who the good coaches are in the league and obviously who's been making bad decisions for many, many moons. But it is what it is. But, going into those games, just a couple upsets to think about. Lions over the Pack, as we mentioned there. Jets over the Broncos. Man. Crowell. Man, who would have thought?
Unbelievable, man. Over 200 yards rushing. I mean, and then you look at Bilal Powell coming through with 99 of his own.
Yeah.
That Jets rushing attack, just, pounding them. So, very impressive.
Crowell's stat of the week here. He had 14.6 yards per carry. The highest average ever in a single game by a player with 15 or more carries.
No shit.
Wow.
That's a nice stat there. Stat man. I like it.
I'm a man now.
You're a man. We got a little boy in the house. So stat boys over here.
Wow, I saw that one coming from a mile away.
But, yeah, good game for the Jets. You know what I mean? They're definitely showing that there's something to hold on to. Case Keenum, kind of interesting with what he's got over there. Definitely can't put it together, and maybe something that need to change the steed over there. I think that coach has got to go.
That coach definitely has to go.
But last one, Bills over the Titans. I mean, Bills have been so wishy-washy, as well as the Titans. So, take that game as it is. But, got to give Sean McCoy a little bit of credit. Kind of show it up, looking like he's running the ball a little bit better, losing a little bit of the injury. And I think that's a side of the ball that they need, quite frankly.
What a terrible game. But you got to give McCoy a lot of credit for them, him to take that many carries, be able to kill the clock like that.
Yeah.
They had a game plan, they executed it, and then I thought this was kind of interesting too. The stat on this, he led the team in receiving with 23 yards.
That's awful.
That's pathetic.
It's great Josh Allen.
Josh Allen with 82.
Hey, beat Minnesota though, so you gotta say something.
Yep.
What you got on your end over there, Brad? I know there's some more milestones, obviously. You'll speak on the Drew Brees.
Obviously, the big
Monday
one, Drew
night.
Brees becoming the all-time passing yard leader, passing Peyton Manning. I don't know if you saw the clip of Peyton Manning congratulating him. It was kind of funny in Peyton Manning's way, and all I kept seeing on Twitter was the SNL skit of him throwing a football and hitting the kid, the United Way commercial. I just kept seeing that over and over, just the gif of that. And but yeah, I mean, Drew Brees, unbelievable career. He's, obviously we talked about this in weeks past. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, and he just keeps rolling, and the Saints just, steamrolled the Redskins.
And his wife still looks hot.
Yeah, for sure. So I know you get to see her
Naked.
kind of live.
Naked.
But yeah, so that's the big milestone of the week, and that was kind of cool. And to do it on a touchdown was kind of special as well. The big thing
That touchdown looked a little weird to me, though. You know what I mean? It's like, you knew Drew Brees was going to do it. Then it was like, I felt like the defense laid down after the catch was there. It's like,
you know what it was? You can see, like, everyone was going to Kamara there. Like, they were all worried about him. And even Josh Norman, who was on Smith at the start there, he just let him go because he was worried about Kamara. And that's what Kamara does. Kamara had, a bad game, but he's so dangerous, defenses have to worry about him, and it opens up everything else for the Saints.
How did Drew Brees become so good?
he went to Purdue.
Practice.
Well, because
I
when
think Sean Payton.
it's Sean Payton, yeah.
he had a really good year with the Chargers though too. The year before he signed. I don't know. It's weird because you see a lot of these quarterbacks that kind of suck for 2 years, and like, do you give up on them?
It's a system. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get a good coach
Definitely.
like a Alex Smith coming into a Reed system.
But he had a really good year with the Chargers that final year. Also, he made an All-Star team, and then he signed because remember, I think he injured his shoulder.
Yep.
And he was going to go to either the Dolphins, right?
Yeah, the Dolphins didn't. He didn't pass the physical, but that's what they kept saying on the broadcast last night too.
Yeah.
Is the Dolphins passed on him, but I don't think he's this quarterback
So it's mainly system?
under Nick Saban. I think he could have been very good, but I don't think he's this under Nick Saban. And who knows how long Nick Saban stays there, because eventually that Alabama job is going to be exactly what he wanted, and if they're not, winning, divisions and all that, he would have split for the college, because that's what he is. He's a coward.
Bottom line is no one wants to go to the Dolphins. So I think that's the end factor.
Yeah, sorry, Brad.
So anyway, Brad,
The only other thing here, talking about the teams really doing well here, Rams and Chiefs both stay unbeaten. Chiefs going up against the Jaguars. That was the top offense versus the top defense, and top offense just rolled. Blake Bortles was Blake Bortles and turned it over 4 times, and the Chiefs rolled. And the Rams, they barely got out of Seattle with a win, but it's always a tough place to go and get victories, so I'm sure they're happy winning a tight game there.
real quick, let's go back to that Kansas City and Jacksonville game. What is going on in Jacksonville, which I think is the big thing? This is a team that has the aspirations to be a Super Bowl contender. Leonard Fournette out, TJ Yeldon in, doing pretty solid, to say the least. Yeah, Grant went on the IR, right?
Yeah.
Just went out, picked up Jamal Charles.
Who's rushing to the waiver wire on that one?
Well, there's going to be a handful of people for sure.
Don't do it. Please don't do it.
It's already done. It's already done. But, Brendan, what's your approach in the situation in Jacksonville?
I think it's an interesting situation there with Yeldon looking so good these first few games. Fournette has been injury prone his whole career. I look at a committee possibly developing there. And, if you're a Fournette owner, you drafted him in the first round, that's got to be a big fear for you. He's already missed a couple games now with a hamstring injury. And you got another guy who's coaches can't deny the fact that he should, deserves carries going on.
Yeldon's always worked hard. You know what I mean? Even when he was in Alabama, he was a good running back then. And he had a tough time getting into the system. And eventually when he found his niche as being that third down back, it really helped him improve as a player. And now that he's got that opportunity, especially being, number 2 behind, in running back battles constantly throughout his career, the opportunity has arisen.
I think
that
big that
he's
Grant,
matured as a player too, which is going to help him out.
Definitely, and with Grant being gone, you lose that other pass catcher, and that's a big part of NFL offenses. So I think even when Fournette, does return, without him being able to catch the ball very well, you got a guy who you could plug in and picks that right up. So I think Yeldon stays in that lineup, even near a 50-50 split once Fournette comes back.
That's interesting.
I think you roster Yeldon for the rest of the year just because, like you said, he'll be a part of the offense. But you never know when Fournette's going to go down again. And it might not even be the hamstring. It could be something else for him. So you just keep him rostered. This is probably one of the best handcuffs in the league because the chance for injury is so strong. So Yeldon's a guy you definitely roster for the whole year. And when Yeldon gets back, you kind of just see what the usage looks like. And good matchups, you can probably play him, especially in big bye weeks.
Could be an early prognosis for an ACL injury that they're hiding. We'll see what happens here, but be interesting to see here. Sorry to interrupt, Brad. You're about to chime in on the rest of your storylines with the injuries and Drew Brees with his record and his hot wife.
And I touched on the 2 undefeated teams left. How about in the NFC? There's only 4 teams with a winning record: the Rams at 5-0, the Saints at 4-1, and the Panthers and the Bears at 3-1. So you have
who was the last one?
Of the 16 teams.
Wait, Brad, I didn't catch the last.
It doesn't really matter. There's 4.
You only have a quarter of the conference with a winning record. Now, of course, there's the Redskins are 2-2, and there's other teams, sitting in that spot. But I mean, there's so many 2 and 3. Redskins are 2-2 and sit alone in first place in that division. So there's just a lot of mediocre or bad teams in the NFC. So it's a wide open race for those teams trying to catch the Rams, who are, definitely the cream of the crop right now in the NFC.
Sorry.
Oh, God.
Well timed. That's
So where are you heading to next?
You've lost.
Injury report?
so now we dive into the injuries, and
your
of course,
your audience just got split right down the middle. you with us or you against us?
Since we already touched on Fournette, he's going to be out again this week. Corey Grant we talked about, he's on IR, so they had to go out and get Jamal Charles. Not as important, but Austin Seferian-Jenkins also goes on IR for the Jaguars. So another tight end who during bye weeks might have been a fill-in is out. The big injury, though, of course, Jay Ajayi tore his ACL. He's done for the year, and now it's either going to be, Corey Clement or your favorite, Wendell Smallwood, stepping in and getting the majority of the carries.
Bro.
And they can
I
relate.
feel him.
So, I mean, I'm interested to know who you like.
You're the only one.
Who you like going forward, for assuming they don't make a trade and bring in LaShawn McCoy or Le'Veon Bell, even though that's probably absurd and not going to happen. But assume they don't go out there and get somebody. Who's the guy of those two, or maybe Darren Sproles, that's going to be the better back going forward?
It's a tough one because I feel like they're going to be professional in the stance of giving Clement the chance to kind of, prove that he's going to be that guy to step up in that role. Personally, I'm going to stick with Smallwood because I think that he's the better back. And the name's pretty, depictive of myself. So, but honestly, the bottom line is Smallwood's shown that he can be that catch passing back, a little bit of a change of pace, and he doesn't mind run between the tackles at times. So
Catch passing back?
Catch passing back. Pig Latin. That's the name of this podcast. But, yeah, I think that's the guy you're going to have to go with here. And no matter who you're playing, it's risky. I would only roll with these guys if you're on a bye week and you don't want to drop anybody, and it's kind of one of them risky moves. But
Agreed.
as far as that goes, it's a tough play there. I'd rather focus on the Aguilar or Jeffrey.
Yeah, and that might be a situation where they do start to pass it a little bit more, open up the offense, and get those guys. I mean, Ertz has been very, very good. Jeffrey's back.
The past
Aguilar's
couple weeks,
been solid. So it might just be a situation where they, maybe throw it a little more often. Going also a couple more injuries here. Rashard Higgins for the Browns sprained his MCL. He'll be out a couple weeks, 2 to 4 weeks. So that puts Callaway back into the mix as a starter. And if you look at the Browns' schedule, they have a very, very soft
who are you talking about?
The Browns. Those sound effects are coming in handy.
Yeah.
But they have a very soft schedule, so it's nice if he's out there to go get Callaway, because it's him and Landry basically, with Gordon out of the picture now and Higgins as well. And then the last one here.
That's all you got about the Browns?
Yeah, we don't need to talk about the Browns anymore.
Hey, I'm not gonna lie though, they're a little bit more interesting to watch.
Well, yeah,
on some sides of the ball. It's like
anything's better than 0-16. So
yeah, 32.
The last one here, he was already injured last week. He missed. Jack Doyle's going to miss another week. So Eric Ebron stepped up in a big way. So Eric Ebron probably continues the role.
I figured he was going to be in that role eventually. I mean, he was a big body that I think him and Stafford just couldn't get on the same page there. And you knew once he got with a quarterback, Stafford's really not. He's an overpaid quarterback, honestly. And going to a city for a quarterback who shops at Green Door Books, which Andy Luck stopped in this past week. It was pretty cool. Michael was telling me. Got his autograph.
This isn't true.
Just actually a homeless guy with a really bushy beard.
Yeah.
It was a Civil War reenactor.
So, yeah, that's exactly what it was. But, I think his development in Indy is going to be pretty big for his career. And look for him to move forward, man, is possibly moving into that second-tier tight ends.
Brad, do you have something to say about him bashing Matt Stafford? I know you're a big Stafford guy. What's your take?
I like Matt Stafford. He's serviceable.
Well, that's a good defense.
Trying to ignite a fire over there.
I doubt it. Well, now that we've gotten into a lot of our storylines, talked about a little bit of the upsets here that happened, we're going to kind of kick into the top 3 players that we think the past week were kind of the guys who held everything down here. First off, I mean, yeah, they came up with a loss, but I got to tip my cap to Aaron Rodgers. He had a pretty decent performance here. Definitely helped Devontae Adams kind of turn things up. 442, 3 TDs. Thomas Brady, although he had a couple picks, he definitely showed a little bit of solidarity. 341, 3 TDs. And Drew Brees. That guy should be the guy on the top, right?
Do you guys need? You don't need that sound effect machine. You got Brad over here. He's like chairs squeaking. He's opening a beer. He's breathing heavy. Sorry.
It's all right, Michael. We're used to interrupting. But Drew Brees. I mean, what else can you say about the guy?
Yeah,
you break the record and you just completely demolish the Skins, who came into the game as one of the tougher defenses, and he just picked them apart.
Yeah, not only did he break the record and all that, he only had 3 incompletions. He was 26 or 29, so he was just. And including a completion to himself. So he just had a great day. And you look at these top 3, and it's the usual suspects. These are the guys you expect to see week in and week out. So, and everyone probably spent a top 5, 6 round pick on these guys. So good for you. You got it paid off for you this week here.
Yep. Except for you, Sal, who lost. On to the running backs. Isaiah Crowell, 15 for 219 and 1 TD. And as Brad, you mentioned, what was a 14.7?
14.6.
I was close. But, what a performance. I still couldn't believe it. And he was a guy I was thinking about going for in fantasy. You know what I mean? Like, all right, maybe I can get him and a mid-grade wide receiver for a decent running back kind of sitting the bench, Cook or Johnson. But didn't happen. Didn't pull the trigger, and quite frankly, I'm a little bit upset myself because
I was mad. left him on my bench this week. He's kind of been that off and on guy where he has a 2-touchdown game, does nothing, 2-touchdown game, nothing. And I guess this was his game that, he turned the light switch back on again. But yeah, I had him on my bench. I think he went off for about 31 points. I was kind of pissed off, but
that's a bummer, man. Another guy who went off, James Conner. 21, 110, 2 TDs, 4 receptions for 75 yards. Is this a response game? Knowing that Le'Veon Bell's coming back, your job may be on the line, even though Le'Veon Bell, no one knows where he's going to go here. You got to give the guy credit. Guy did some big things here, so kudos to him. And obviously Todd Gurley rolling in with 3 TDs. That's all you got to say here.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't impress the world with 77 rushing yards, but only went 4 for 36. But Jared Goff's a guy who knows how to get things done, spreading the field out elsewhere. And bottom line is that's who he needs to worry about, is getting Gurley the ball, getting that front down as far as the running game, and then your options are endless there.
Yeah, I think anytime you go for over 100 yards total there and then throw in 3 touchdowns, it's a good thing. So you're not too upset with the 22 for 77 when you factor in he had 3 touchdowns on top of it.
A couple notables. TJ Yeldon had a pretty impressive game there, as we talked about, filling on that role. Expect for him to kind of roll forward in the next couple of weeks while Leonard Fournette's out. Saquon Barkley, really impressive day here, over 100 yards, and also catching a reception from ODB. Is that okay, Michael? Oh, pushing time out, huh?
I got Barkley. I'm happy.
And the other guy, Kenyon Drake. Boy, you haven't done shit all year. And then all of a sudden you pop off for about 22 points. A little bit frustrating there, but I had to throw that out for spite. I know there were guys running a little bit better than him, but that was a spite notable. Like, okay.
They got to get him the ball more. The only way Miami turns this thing around is they got to start feeding. He's probably their best offensive player, and the fact that he's gotten 14 carries the last 3 games is just sad. So, Brad, I know you're a Dolphin fan. They got to start feeding their guy, or they're going to be in trouble.
Someone's going to kidnap Snowflake if something doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's the class. I mean, you see it all over the league. Packers are doing it with Aaron Jones not getting the majority. The Lions, we talked about Kerryon Johnson. So it's just these coaches are I don't know if they're afraid to give these guys too much of a workload, but I think Kenyon Drake is a guy that should easily get 15 touches, 15 carries a game, and then factor in, there's 7 or so targets.
I want to see that consecutively. You know what I mean?
And we
he's
can
going to
go
grow
on
that
and on
way,
with all these guys that deserve it and not getting the opportunity. But you know what? At this point, Tannehill's not doing enough. They're not doing enough in the passing game to open up the running game.
I hear you. Going on to wide receivers, guy we just mentioned throwing a TD pass to Barkley, ODB, 1 for 57 and a TD and passed, or that was his passing touchdown, and then he had 8 receptions for 131 and a TD. So on a different side of the ball, which we didn't expect, who would have thought that he was going to throw a passing touchdown the same day he got his first reception? Guy who really came out of the blue, same team as Crowell, Robbie Anderson, 3 for 123, 2 TDs. I've seen that guy on the waiver wire so frequently, and everyone and I laughed at people when they picked him up. And I'm still going to laugh at him because I don't think this is anything.
Stay away.
Yeah. So I'm hopefully that sucker goes out there, picks him up, wastes his, because we limit our ads on free agency. So hopefully it maxes him out here at the end of the season. But yeah, Robbie, not trusting nobody.
No, he's too, he doesn't get enough of the targets, so he doesn't have enough opportunity to put up big numbers. Sure, he caught 2 big touchdowns this week, but if he doesn't catch those 2 touchdowns, he's got 1 reception for, a small yardage. So you're talking about, what, a 3-point game? Sure, he blew up and got you 20 this week, but you're really rolling the dice with a guy like that every single week. And I'd much rather have a guy like, Tyler Boyd, who will get you 6-7 target or catches on, say, 10. Obviously, Boyd's not out there in the free agent wire, but a guy like that is going to get a lot more targets is more valuable to me.
I agree. And number 3 kind of split it down because they were both pretty solid in both regards, pretty close. Antonio Brown and Devontae Adams. Brown went 101 for 2 TDs, and Adams went 140 for 1 TD. but he chimed in with a little bit more reception. So, given a half reception PPR league definitely shows a little bit more. But it got to the point where when that game started in Green Bay, or, in Detroit, to say the least, Devontae Adams didn't have a reception until almost the end of the first half. And you're like, fantasy owners are probably freaking out thinking, shit, what are they going to do here?
I actually checked like mid-game. I'm like, was he deactivated? Because I know he was an injury risk going in. And, yeah. So, but that's another guy. That's your top dog. You got to feed him, especially when they had other injuries.
Geronimo was out.
Yeah, to Cobb and Allison. So, it was good to see him kind of step up, and same thing with Jimmy Graham. I think Jimmy Graham had he had a decent game as well.
Yeah.
To see those guys step up, you got some other rookies filling in is a good thing.
Yeah, no, definitely. The guys who need to step up did, but unfortunately the guy who should be automatic in a dome. And that's what gets me the most is the fact that a lot of these kicks that were missed this week, even the Saints kicker missed the PAT to start the game, And it's like, you're in a dome, man. How much easier can it get? But it is what it is. We'll get on to the next thing. But one notable, Adam Thielen, 7 for 116 and a TD.
Is the first receiver in the NFL to go 5 straight games with 100 yards.
100 yards,
so that's a big milestone there as well.
Sure,
He's now leading the league in receptions. He's on pace to break Marvin Harrison's reception record. He's on pace to challenge, I believe it's Julio Jones' yardage record. So he is doing things I didn't think it was going to. I thought it was going to be Diggs, but
yeah.
Diggs is still doing all right. But Thielen's just going above and beyond. And Cook's Cousins, he likes him and he's going there a lot.
Let me ask you something. A little bit off subject, but kind of tying in there. Thielen and Diggs are kind of showing what they got, and Cousins is feeding them. Do you think if Keenum was still in Minnesota, knowing the offense, a couple years more than Cousins, do you think they would still be in the record that they're at right now? Or do you think maybe the camaraderie that Keenum had with the offense, given the the loss of the offensive line coach, they'd be in a different spot,
I think I don't think Keenum would have made that big of a difference. I believe Cousins is flat out a better quarterback, and we're seeing, Keenum. Sure, he had to go to a new system again in Denver, but he's got weapons there, and he's just not getting them. I think it was more of a kind of a fluky thing last year for him. Everything just kind of clicked last year for the Vikings, and he had that kind of a special year, kind of like what we saw Fitzpatrick do for the first 3 weeks. He was able to do for a good portion of the year when he finally took over. So, and let's not forget, Keenum was awful in the NFC Championship game. So they had to make the change if they really wanted to be a contender, and this was the right move. And I think the schedule gets a lot easier for them as well. So, they went through a tough little gauntlet here of, obviously the Bills game, you can say whatever you want about that. They were overlooking the Bills and getting ready for the Rams. But when you have to go to the Rams on a short week, go all the way out to L.A., then go to Philly the following week to play the Super Bowl champions, that's a tough little 2-game stretch there. And
indeed,
to come out 1-1's nice, but they will continue to win games here throughout the rest of the season and probably easily get to 10 wins, I think. So I think that's all of our top performers this week. I'll start out with a couple of, fallers here. Amari Cooper's a big one. He continues to have a bad game following a good game. Week 2, he had a really nice game. Then week 3, he was awful. Last week, he was awesome. This week, awful. So he's just the guy that, I don't know how you can feel good about starting him any single week. Another big one, Brandon Cooks had an early concussion, put up a goose egg. That hurts a lot. That's one of those fluke things that you can't really predict. You saw the Rams put up a huge number of points yet again, and you think, okay, if he stays healthy, he doesn't get hurt early, he would have been just fine. But, yeah, that's just a crappy situation. Matt Ryan had a pretty tough game there against the easy defense, and then Julio still can't get in the end zone. 62 yards for him. He had 0 catches in the first half of that game. So Julio is such a good player. He's one of the top 3 receivers in the league still. Mm-hmm. But for whatever reason, that offense, if it's Sarkisian or whatever, they just don't find him in the red zone, and that's a huge problem.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think he's going to come out of that shell here anytime soon. You know, like ODB, Antonio Brown, they've all kind of busted out and kind of done a little bit. But, yeah, something's going on there. And I think it's something a little more personable that Sarkisian needs to work out there. Now, I know we talked about the receivers that kind of tore things up, kind of were slumping a little bit. The team of receivers on the Eagles is what's bothering me right now. Carson Wentz, yeah, you got Zach Ertz, and thank God they got Zach Ertz because, I mean, Aguilar, on paper, they got some pretty good wide receivers, especially with Jeffrey back. And Jeffrey came back last week. I'm like, oh, okay, this is the Alshon Jeffrey. He looks like he's healed, took the perfect amount of time off, and then just didn't get a lot of looks last week. And it could be that separation from the running back and not having someone significant in there that people need to actually worry about, and they think they're going to go straight to the pass. But
that Eagles offense in general looks out of sorts right now. I mean, when you look across the board at all positions, really outside of Ertz at the tight end position, but quarterback, running back, receiver, and be it injuries, which they've been hit with pretty good, they just don't look like themselves. Or they certainly don't look like the team from last year. So. Receivers specifically, you would expect more a little bit out of Aguilar and out of Jeffrey, but there's probably brighter days ahead as Wentz works himself back into that system. But now they run into the problem where who's your running back, and if teams could play them as a one-dimensional offense, they're going to run into some bigger issues.
I agree. Well, now that we move down to the top performers of the past week, we're going to move into one of our favorite segments that we got. Who you got?
Who you got?
Who you got? Hey, who you got?
Who you got?
Hey, girl. Who you got? Well, now that we got that shit out of the way, let's get into this. So, with our special guest this week, Brendan, he's got a couple people that he kind of wants to get off his chest here. So he's gonna unveil who he's got for us.
All right, let's kick it off at the quarterback position. And, man, I didn't expect to lead the segment here. What an honor, John.
Brother, look at this.
So, wow.
All right, who you got?
I'll kick it off with two quarterbacks. I got Andy Dalton versus the division rival Pittsburgh Steelers, or Jameis Winston coming back for his first start at Atlanta.
Go ahead, Brad.
Brad, who do you got?
The guy that I really like here is Winston, actually. I know.
I thought you were going to say Theo.
Dalton's going up the Steelers. The Steelers are allowing the second most points to quarterbacks this year. And it's in Cincinnati, so that is a good thing for Dalton here. But the Falcons aren't very far behind. They're giving up the fourth most points, and it's a half point less per game. And I think with a week to prepare, Winston's the guy now. I think he's going to have a huge game in that dome, and I'm taking Winston in this one. And I like a guy like Cameron Brate here. Winston's a guy who loves his tight ends. O.J. Howard's out. Cameron Brate's going to have a big game. Winston's my pick.
It's respectable, and I agree with you to a point on Winston kind of returning and kind of hopefully starting to turn the page for that team. But I'm going to take Dalton. I think Dalton's a better pick here going into Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's still in a bit of a disarray. They're kind of beat. They know they have a bye week coming up here, so they're kind of yearning for like a break. You know what I mean? They see the finish line, and I think that's what's going to hold them back here. And Cincinnati's playing some damn good football. They just got Mixon back, who at first, Mr. Lewis was like, yeah, he may get a couple carries and rushed in, but before he knew it, man, he had about 22 fantasy points, and owners were looking pretty happy. Not to mention, you mentioned Boyd, who's been pretty damn consistent. I mean, the loss of Eifert, I think, is nothing to this point. And A.J. Green, I mean, the guy's a playmaker. So a couple solid guys and a running back, that's all you really need to do. So hands down, man, I got to go with you need to go with Andy Dalton.
All right. Well, we're going to stick with the quarterbacks here for John and Brendan. Feel free to chime in here. I got Phillip Rivers at the Browns or Russell Wilson taking on the Raiders in London.
You know, I'm going to go with Russie Wilson. I think he's going to toss it around and get some fish and chips at the old the pub. Seems like one of those guys. But I just think that he's going to have a better performance here. Rivers, I like Rivers. I've been big on Rivers. But Cleveland is just, even when the team's not above average, you know what I mean? They're still dwindling on the lower side of the NFL. They have something to play for now. There's hope. and their hope isn't to win the division. Their hope is, hey man, let's get 6, let's get 8 wins. You know, let's change this around. Let's make sure our head coach is still around next year. So, bottom line is, that's what I got to roll with, man.
I actually I'm gonna go with the other guy here. I respect the Browns' passing defense. It's actually in the top 10, so that scares me a little bit. But Rivers has been absolutely on fire. He's thrown for 250 or more in 4 of his 5 games. He's got multiple TDs in every game. And on the flip side of that coin, I look at Wilson, and he looks out of sorts. He's only thrown for more than 200 yards in 2 out of his 5 games. He is putting up touchdowns, but that rushing element that you typically get out of him as well. So far this season we've seen 42 rushing yards. So it doesn't look like the same Russell Wilson, and I don't necessarily think that's him. I think it's the offense around him. I think some of his, I think the receiver core, losing Jimmy Graham, having, the running game's been much better the last couple games, but not having necessarily that guy that they can lean on, and maybe it's developing, but I think a lot's been asked out of Wilson, and he just hasn't looked himself.
I could understand that 100%. And to the discredit, I don't want to discredit Lockett because Lockett's having a great year here. And I feel like their running back situation slowly coming into tuition. You know what I mean? You got a guy is he going to take it? Is he not? Is he going to? And I think we'll see though. I think it's going to be that defensive side of the ball that's going to be the deciding factor for that game, that pick.
What you talked on Russell not running the ball, he's scrambling at the lowest percentage he's ever done in his career. 3.6% of his dropbacks he scrambles. So when you draft a guy like that, you expect him to get you a lot of points rushing the ball. You expect a 30-yard, 3 bonus points there, and you're not getting that. And if he's not throwing for 300 yards, like you touched on with your stat there, it's just not a good game. So, yeah, you can go either one here. It's a tough play, but, yeah, I mean, you guys both presented good arguments. John, you got running backs?
Who do you got in that quarterback call there, Brad? Just to break the tie.
I go with Wilson just because I think the defense that he's going up against is a lot worse.
Can we get a Band-Aid for Brendan over here?
I do like Rivers as a whole for the whole season. I think he'll end as a top 5 quarterback. But Wilson for this week here against that, and it's not a true home game for the Raiders, so they're both traveling a long way. So I think Russie's the guy.
Right on. Out of the running back, I got Isaiah Crowell. First the Colts. See if he's going to hold up on his performance, or guy I just mentioned, Chris Carson at Oakland, over the pond. Across the pond.
I like this match. I think this is a pretty equal matchup here. I'm not scared of either one of these defenses, really. And I think both of these guys have shown in the last couple weeks that they are capable of big games. Personally, I'm going to take Crowell in this situation. A guy coming off 200 yards, I think he's going to see the rock a little bit more of this game. I know Powell is there, and similar for Carson, he's got Davis that he's splitting carries with. So I think it's a similar situation in both cases. But I like Crowell coming off that big game, showing that he could score touchdowns. He's got 5 on the season as well. Is a guy you could count on, especially against a Colts defense.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the opposite side here. I like Carson for the simple fact that the Seahawks are running the ball a lot better than years past, and he's been very, very good. He's looked good. He's been good, and I think he's going to have a big game against the Raiders, and I expect the Seahawks to get up early in this one and just kind of coast and give Carson a ton of work, and that's the big reason why I like him. I think Crowell is a nice player. He has his big games. We've seen it a couple times this year. But I think the Colts were the Thursday night game last week, and they get the half bye here, basically. So they got a couple of extra days to prepare for the Jets. And I think they're like a Jekyll and Hyde, and I think this is the week they show up and put up a big week and maybe that keeps Crowell off the field because they're going to be playing catch-up, which gives Bilal Powell more time on the field.
Yeah, I like both of those, and I think I agree with both of you. It's a tough decision there. I think they're both played their well way into their team, and it's someone who, especially Carson coming back. I didn't think he was really going to play last week, and I'm like, oh, guy kind of put up some yardage. So, and then Crowell, man, can't knock a guy who led last week, just like my man Mitch.
All right, let's take
Not
this.
Mitch Daniels, for the record.
No.
Let's go one more turn around here the table with the who you got. I'm gonna go to the receiver position in this case, and I got 3 guys here. I got Jarvis Landry versus the Chargers. I got Robert Woods at Denver, and then Julian Edelman versus the Chiefs.
Who you got? Go ahead, Bradley.
I like all 3 of these guys matchup-wise. I think, obviously, we know how bad the Chiefs have been, but surprisingly, they're not giving up a ton of points to wide receivers. They're doing a good job in that department of kind of keeping them down. I don't know. They're not one of the worst teams, but I don't know if that's because you look at some of these bad teams and they've been just dreadfully bad. But the Chiefs haven't been that bad to the point where I'm ready to go with a guy like Edelman, who's still kind of working his way back, still has the weapons there with Gronk, James White, Josh Gordon, and you never know. Maybe Hogan finally shows up and catches a couple touchdowns, which takes, points away from Edelman. So I stay away from Edelman. Woods has obviously been a very good player this year. Both Kupp and Cooks are coming off concussions, so they're in the concussion protocol. So if one of them is out, I kind of like Woods. If both of them are out, I kind of worry about Woods going up against Chris Harris. But if all 3 of them are in there, it's still a tough spot. So I'm going to go with Landry here. He's actually my safest play of the week for the receivers because the Chargers, they've given up a ton of points to the receivers this year. And,
They have, yeah.
And Landry's a guy that, without Rashard Higgins now, without Josh Gordon, Baker's got to go to someone, and it's going to probably be him or Njoku. And how can you not go with a guy with hands that good? Bless him. Bless him.
Bless him. Bless that pick. Because I was thinking about that. The only thing I worry about in that secondary is Derwin James. Rookie's been having a phenomenal year for the Chargers. But luckily for Cleveland, Landry's the type of guy who can get in the slot, move around, and kind of just get open. Not a guy that Derwin James is going to kind of come up there and put more pressure on. I agree with what you say about Woods. Depending on who comes back at that point, one of them needs to come back. Because if one of them doesn't, Woods is going to be screwed on that front. And that could alter Jared Goff's game and essentially Todd Gurley's. You know what I mean? Depending how the defense starts to run things. Edelman, now, he's a guy, I feel like last week he kind of got into the groove here. I haven't been big on Chris Hogan, and Josh Gordon got in there, but I don't think Gordon's going to be a guy who knows Brady as well. Yeah, they're going to be able to throw him down for some bombs if he needs it, and he'll be out there, be able to go for that jump ball, but I'm going to say Edelman's going to get around 9 receptions this week. He's going to be highly involved here, and I think for that reason alone and how Kansas City's secondary has been playing, you got to go with Julian.
Yeah, I like all 3 of those guys. Good, and I appreciate good opinions on all 3. So, Aaron, thanks.
Just so everyone knows here,
Thanks.
our buddy over here, Brendan, stellar individual here. He used to run out of Soldier Field. He used to lead the Bears out with the Chicago Bears flag, and he held the door open for recent Hall of Famer Brian Urlacher. Tell us about that experience, Brendan.
That was many moons ago. One of the coolest things I've ever done in my life. Those training camps down in Bourbonnais and then working those game days. Kind of regret giving it up. I could have been that guy still these days at the ripe age of 31. But no.
I remember we went to that one preseason game, and the one cheerleader got hurt in the preseason.
Oh, no.
So they needed another person to throw up in the air. You know how they do the spin thing?
Wasn't me, Jim.
And they catch him, and Brendan was happened to be there. He was the lightest guy, so kudos, man. Kudos. But now that we got into our who you got, we got one more who you got from Brad, wide receivers.
Yeah, I got Corey Davis, he's going up against the Ravens at home, or Chris Godwin at Atlanta taking on the Falcons.
I think I'm going to go with Chris Godwin on this one. I think it's a solid pick here. And we've talked the past couple of weeks just how deteriorated Atlanta's defense has been getting. And you know what doesn't help a defense that's already beaten up? A very shitty offense that just can't put things together here. Yeah, do I have faith in Matty Ice? Yeah, eventually here, but I think Freeman needs a couple more weeks to kind of reestablish that run game because Tevin Coleman had a handful of weeks and he has been able to produce, and that ultimately kind of is why he's not going towards Julio. I think Julio's locked up. Teams are kind of forcing more pressure on him, and he's having to spread it out on the other side of the ball to Ridley, Sanu. So with that said, I gotta go with my Godwin, man.
Brenda?
Brenda.
I got lost there for a second. Who's going to Ridley and Sanu?
Matty Ice.
Well, how did he get into this conversation? Because his receivers were not an option here.
Well, if you listen, you know, it's not about one side of the ball. Eventually, if your defense is dilapidated.
So the opposite side of the ball
is going to
control your decision here.
Yeah,
all right. Well,
it does.
That's an interesting concept there.
Who you got?
Who do I got here?
I'll get those male cheerleaders back here for you if you need me to help you out.
Yeah, you know what? How many times have you been on the field at Soldier Field during a game? Because I spent about 3 or 4 years doing that. So, back to Corey Davis and Chris Godwin.
Feelings are hurt.
In this case, I like Corey Davis for the simple fact that he's the number one guy in that offense. I know Mariota's been struggling. He's really had one game where he's produced fantasy-wise. And the Titans' offense has looked out of sorts. But for the simple fact he's going to get the volume, I got to go with Corey Davis.
Disagree. Go ahead.
I really like Godwin for the simple fact that I think the one guy that gets hurt by Winston's return is Deshaun Jackson. I think Godwin's a guy that...
They script all this before we start.
I think Godwin's a guy that will have a nice game, and especially without Howard there, only the one tight end to really worry about. Godwin's the play here for me.
I agree with you. Brendan? Okay. That's all we need from you. All righty. Well, now that we went through our who you got, we're going to just quickly touch on the top 3 here this week. Real quick. Top 3 guys we got here, my opinion, Russie Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Andy Dalton. I think these are some pick-the-clicks here in the quarterback perspective. Joe Mixon had a nice performance on the running back side of things. Jordan Howard's coming back from a bye week, and James White showing his potential here. I definitely like what they got going forward. Wide receiver end, start Calvin Ridley. I know I just talked smack about that offense, but the default on the defensive side of the ball is helping him and Sanu out. So ways to move forward. Josh Gordon, Kansas City. Wait for that long ball, baby. He'll get burnt twice. Brady likes to throw the rock. And
it's going to be a shootout, too.
Sherling Steppard. Sherling Silver.
Steppard.
Sherling Silver. Who's your tops, bro?
You went first this week because you kept stealing mine, so I'm going to steal some of yours here. I like Matty Ice to have a rebound game and lead the Falcons to a victory. Russie, you liked him. I like him as well. And then Andy Dalton, you touched on, or I'm sorry, not Andy Dalton, Jameis Winston. I think he's going to have that big game against the Falcons. And I think that is going to be the shootout. Bucks-Falcons. Running backs, I think Dalvin Cook will play, and he will have a huge game. The Vikings will get their first 50-yard rusher, and he's going to go over that by at least double. He'll get 100 yards because the Cardinals are dreadful at stopping the run. Then I like Aaron Jones going against San Francisco on Monday night, and then James Conner is my third guy there. I think he's going to continue to do it before Bell comes back, this is Conner's last time without Bell. And then receivers, I like Landry. I think we touched on in the Who You Got segment why. Doug Baldwin's going to have a really good game. We've been waiting for it. I think this is finally the time he's going to show up. And then like you, I like Calvin Ridley as well.
Right on. Well, now that we got our tops out of the way, we're going to round up to our predictions for the week here. We're going to start off Thursday Night Football. Brendan, who you taking, Philly or the G-Men?
Actually, this is a big game for the NFC. NFC East at this moment, with most of those teams struggling, and the Redskins leading the division right now at 2-2. I went with the New York Football Giants in this game.
That's a solid pick right here. I like that pick.
I think that offense, Odell did light a fire under them last game. I know they didn't get the W, but they did come alive a little bit on that side of the ball, and I look for them to continue that this game.
Okay, Brad, what are you looking at?
I'll keep it short and sweet. Wentz is way better than Eli, and that's the reason I will take the Eagles.
Okay. Respectful, but I'm going to go with the Giants. I'm going to agree with Brendan here. I think that they got something going here, and Saquon and ODB, they show up with Sherling Shepherd. That's what it's going to be. Alrighty, Los Angeles Chargers walking into Cleveland.
Kind of out of spite, I'm not going to take Cleveland. Give me the Chargers to win this game. Phillip Rivers continues to roll, and Chargers get up there with keep the pressure on the Chiefs.
This game scares me a bit with the Browns being at home. The Browns are undefeated at home through 3 games so far. But with that being said, I still like the Chargers. Too many weapons on offense.
I'm going to agree with you. I got to go with the Chargers here. Cleveland, this one you got to sit out. Carolina Panthers rolling into the Redskins. Who you got, Brendan?
In this game, Carolina's looked good so far this season. That Cam Newton, McCaffrey combination has gotten things done. Was able to come through late last week. Redskins did not look too hot on Monday night, and I like the Panthers here.
Doesn't help AP's banged up.
Yeah, short week for the Redskins, and AP's banged up. So is Chris Thompson. Panthers are healthy, and they get Greg Olsen back probably. So give me the Panthers and Cam Newton.
Give me the Panthers and Cam Newton and McCaffrey. But sit Greg Olsen this week. Sit him as an owner, and sit him as an owner of the Panthers, because you know this is going to be a game you're going to be able to win. So I don't risk him coming back. I say, hey, take another week off, buddy. Seattle coming into Oakland, which is technically not. It's East Oakland.
Well, in my top 3, I like Russell Wilson and Baldwin both to have really good games. So, I mean, just by that logic, I'll take the Seahawks to easily roll over the pass rushless Raiders.
This game's overseas. Seattle's never done that. Oakland's been there a couple of times, playing in 2014 in England, and then the last 2 years in Mexico City.
Yeah.
Haven't had much luck though. They're 1-2, and I think both teams traveling from the West Coast. Nothing to worry about there in terms of travel. I think the Seahawks are the better team. They get it done.
So do they go backwards or do they go forwards to get there? We'll save that for another episode. I'm going to go with Seattle also. I think Seattle's going to be the ones who come in and take that.
Fly west. They would not fly west.
I think they would go through China.
We're going to take the long way, boys.
We're going to go back in time here, steal the playbook. Buffalo Bills coming into Houston. Brad?
All right, Buffalo got a big win last week. They're second in 3 weeks, surprisingly. They're still not very good, so Houston's going to win this game as long as Deshaun Watson doesn't kill himself trying to do it like he almost did this past week. So give me Houston to win this one.
Yeah, I thought the Houston defense looked really good. Bottled up Zeke pretty well last week. Bills don't have much on offense. We touched on that earlier.
Neither do the Cowboys either.
I like the Texans here.
I do too. I think that's a 3-0 right there. Buffalo Bills, figure out what's going on next year. Tampa Bay Buccaneers rolling in a division matchup with the Atlanta Falcons.
Well, I already touched on this again in the top 3. I said Matt Ryan's going to lead the Falcons to victory, and I think he will. This will be a shootout, but I think Matt Ryan is the better quarterback, more experienced, and he's really having a solid year. So I don't think... I just think that defense is just dreadful, but they will find a way to win this game, Falcons.
Another big game here with 2 division teams. Bucks 2-2, Falcons 1-4. Falcons at home. I think Matty Ice gets it done. I just don't trust Jameis Winston. I want to see a couple games out of him before I really start picking that way.
I'm gonna also go with the Falcons here. Now I know I obviously picked Godwin as far as the receiver goes over Davis, but given the perspective, let's just say that's why I picked them. Falcons, they can't go back and lose like that. They start losing like that at home and make that a trend. there's going to be some people losing their jobs there. And I think it starts first off with Sarkisian. I think that's someone that's going to have to go and figure out what the hell he's doing. Maybe he needs to get drunk and get in the huddle. Whatever he's got to do, he's got to figure it out fast. Pittsburgh, my opinion, one of the games of the week. Coming into Cincinnati.
I love this game. Two good teams. The Bengals really have their chance here to stake their claim on that division. They're undefeated at home. They have looked good. Dalton's look good. Boyd, AJ Green, Mixon. I think they have enough to get it done. I got Bengals.
Yeah, I too like the Bengals here. I think the Steelers aren't what they were last year or what they have been the past few years, especially without Bell. We talked about that. They're just not the same team. And Bengals have everything going right now. They came back with a huge victory against my Dolphins last week. So they're flying high. They're staying at home, and they're going to get another victory.
I didn't know you owned the Dolphins, but I'm going to agree with you and go with the Bengals. I think that they give the Steelers that last loss. That makes them really think about the whole Le'Veon Bell situation coming into the break. Okay, do we need him? Yeah. Is Connor going to be able to do something? I don't think Connor has such a big game. I think Mixon's going to be the star of this game, quite frankly. Look for Juju Smith-Schuster. I think he's going to have a pretty solid game here, and don't be surprised if their backup or their third wide receiver, Washington, has a solid game. Just saying. That whole tight end mess is a mess over there, so, but,
It's a mess.
it's a mess. It's a mess of a mess.
It's a mess.
Hey, clean that up. Cardinals coming into Minnesota.
Yeah, this is Minnesota all day. They're like I said, they had two tough games in a row. They were able to get the victory against the Eagles. They're not going to overlook the Cardinals. They're going to win this game pretty easily.
Yeah, Minnesota already fell victim to a trap game earlier against Buffalo. They're 10-point favorites in this game, Vikings.
I'm going to agree with you, gentlemen. The Vikings are going to roll all over them. Indianapolis is stepping into East Rutherford.
I like Indy in this one. I kind of touched on this in the Who You Got. Crowell could have a good game, but I think he's going to be not on the field as much because Powell's going to get the majority of the looks because they're going to be down. And I think they're going to be down because I think the Colts offense is just going to have a big game. I think Ebron's really coming along. They got the other receivers there and Grant. And I forgot. But I think Hilton
That's
comes back.
because they don't have anyone besides like Ebron.
I think Hilton comes back. I do like Ryan Grant a lot. And God damn, I can't just think of the guy's name. But I'll take Indy.
You're about to get hutted.
Brad can't even. Yeah, Brad doesn't even know Indy's receivers. I'll go with the Jets in this one.
That's a good stake there. I don't think Hines is going to have what it takes. I got to go with the Jets also. I think that the running backs have got things going. And albeit, if anything, Robbie Anderson's just going to be a distraction. Maybe Ignoua. You know what I'm talking about. He may have a mediocre game.
Hushmanzada?
Ignoua.
Hushmanzada?
What?
Next game.
Anunwa.
Los Angeles Rams going into the Mile High.
Yeah, the Rams are right now best team in the league. They're going to continue to roll. Denver's looked dreadful the last couple of games. I think Goff's going to go in there and just have his way with Denver.
Only thing that scares me about the Rams this week is, does Kupp and Cooks, do they come back from concussion protocol? Otherwise, that offense is too strong. But regardless, I still think the Rams take care of the Broncos.
I like your picks. I'm going to differ, though. I think that the Broncos are kind of going to turn the page a little bit. I'm going to use that term another 12 times on this podcast. I think that Keenum's going to figure a way out with his receivers here. I think the running game's going to pick things up. I think Lindsey's going to establish himself as, hey, Freeman, just sit on the bench and wait for third down. Because I think that's eventually what's going to need to happen here. They got to make that mainstay. And I think that altitude may affect a couple cats on the other side of the ball. So I know Sue can't hang. Give me the Broncos. Jacksonville going into Dallas.
I say it every week. Dallas sucks. Prescott sucks. Jacksonville wins pretty easily. I think they're going to continue to roll here. They're going to get back to their winning ways here after the Chiefs game.
Cowboys are undefeated so far at home, but Jacksonville, I think they bounced back, big after the Chiefs loss in a game, that was hyped. They come back, beat the Cowboys.
Yeah, I think we're all square away there. Jacksonville for sure. Dak, your first name's Dakota. That's all I need to say.
Dakota Rain.
Yeah. We won't even bring up the middle name, but yeah, if you got to bring it in, bring it in. Baltimore coming into Tennessee.
This is an interesting game because these are two teams squarely in the race right now for a playoff spot. They're both, behind probably better team. I mean, Baltimore's behind Cincy, Tennessee's behind Jacksonville as far as talent goes, and what our expectations are for them. So this is a really good-looking game. I think it's going to be a tight one. I think it's going to come down to the wire. And ultimately, I think if Mariota's healthy, he's better than Flacco right now. And they're at home, so I'll take the Titans.
How the hell are both of these teams 3-2?
I know.
I mean, but on the flip side of that coin, both have looked good at times, and then both have looked awful at times. Ravens losing in Cleveland, Titans losing just last week to the Bills. So it's a kind of a head scratcher for me.
I think it's a coin toss. Right
yeah,
now, for sure.
and when that happens, a lot of times I go with the home team. So I'm going to take Tennessee in this case.
Okay. I respect that, and I was planning on taking Tennessee, but I got to take that leap ahead, against Brad in this, so I'm going to go with Baltimore. I think Baltimore, Mr. Joey Flacco, Brown's looking like a good receiver that he can rely on, as oddly as it is.
Downtown.
Got Hurst coming back. It'd be interesting to see how he can kind of fare here. Brad, you're sweating bullets over there, bro. You all right?
Drip water.
Yeah. Okay. But, yeah, I'm going to go with Baltimore here. Kansas City Chiefs. Now, great Sunday night game. I wasn't even on the soundboard.
Was that your chair?
No. That was a baby he was smothering. Kansas City Chiefs at New England.
Great game. This is my game of the week for sure. Look forward to this one on Sunday night. Chiefs, you have your chance to say, hey, we're top dog of the AFC. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Brady and the Patriots, with some extra time to prepare, having played Thursday last week, so a couple extra days of preparation, they get it done. I got the Patriots.
I'm done picking against the Chiefs. I think I've done that pretty much every week this year, and obviously that's obviously not gone very well for me. So I'm going to take them here because I really like Mahomes. I really like this offense, and I think the Patriots are trending downward. They're not going to miss the playoffs. They're not going to be that bad, but I think the time for someone else to be the top dog in the AFC has come, and I think this is the team. I think the Chiefs win this game and say, hey, it's our turn now.
Shout out to BK on that Pats pick, by the way.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Kansas City Chiefs are going to lose. I was hoping Brad would mark it off so he'd bitch at me again. But I'm going to go with Tom Brady. I think this is the best test for Mahomes as far as a quarterback coming in the league, saying, hey, this is going to be a shootout here. I'm going to be able to stand up to the pressure, be able to complete passes when I need to. New England's got some decent defense here. I know they always start slow, and they end up being one of the best defenses in the league. So just
giving that extra preparation time to Belichick, that's huge.
Yeah.
So
I agree. Now we know what our game of the week is, so I'm going to go right into Monday night to save the best for last. So Monday night we got the 49ers against the Packers. This should be a pretty easy one, gentlemen. I'm going to just start off here and just say Green Bay's got this on lock. Even if Mason Crosby misses 7 field goals, they're still going to win.
Again, the spread's near 10. Green Bay, they get this done.
Yeah, this is my lock of the week. The Packers will roll. Niners just aren't the same without Jimmy G, so Packers get it done now.
Done now.
Game of the week.
Now, the game of the week, in my opinion, as a Bears fan, Brad's opinion as a Dolphins fan, and for the podcast's sake, we banter a lot, going back and forth, and the Chicago Bears are strolling into the Miami Dolphins this year. Now, there's a couple significant things, okay? The Bears, they played the Miami Dolphins wearing the Orange Crush jerseys the last time.
Ooh, baby.
And they lost, which is a rarity because when the Bears, which they just brought back this year, the Bears are wearing the Orange Crushes. The Bears are what, Brendan?
Since 2005, between 2005 and 2011, the Bears have worn the Orange Crush jerseys 7 times, and they're 5-2.
5-2 is a solid record. I'll give it to you. You guys took that one. I remember it was a shitty game. Cedric Benson was our starting running back. Rex Grossman was in there. So you can have it. And I will also give you this: the Miami Dolphins are.
That's a great stat, Dan Burns.
Hey, now those are fighting words. Chicago is only 4-8 all time against Miami, which is kind of ridiculous in my eyes that they've only played fucking handful of times. But look at this stat: 2004, Tressman's last year.
Nope, not
2014. I'm sorry, Tressman's last year. I'm seeing a couple zeros over here. Miami won. Okay, 2010, the Bears won. So it's kind of been back and forth. They're kind of dealing it. And I feel like this is the Bears' time for one. They're a hell of a lot better team for one.
2006, the Dolphins won.
They're going to kick the shit out of them. Yeah. No. Yeah, the Orange Crush. But guess what happened? Well, guess what the significance was that year? This is what I'm getting at. The point is, the Bears were 4-1, I want to say, or 5-1 when they played Miami that year, which was the same year they went to the Super Bowl, rocking the Orange Crushes. So, I'm just saying. First place in the division when they went to Miami wearing the Orange Crushes. First place in the division walking into the Orange Crushes. Show me the money, baby. Bears gonna go to the Super Bowl. And after 7-year hiatus, gotta give the Bears some credit. Virginia McCaskey bringing them bad boys back. I know you wore your orange Nike polo shirt specifically for the Bears today.
Hey, you know what? I had to get hyped up for today. I think those jerseys, they could tend to do that for for those guys. Putting those on in the locker room, running out of the tunnel, gets you a little amped up. Bears take care of the Dolphins.
Oh, they're gonna fuck the Dolphins up.
I'm gonna give you.
And just for the last stat: Chicago Bears in the Hall of Fame, 27. Miami Dolphins in the Hall of Fame, 11.
I'm gonna give you a quick correction there. You said
doesn't matter.
2006, the Bears went into Miami wearing the Orange Crush. It was in Chicago. I was at that game, and it was glorious.
That was 2010.
Well, 2006 is the Super Bowl year, and you said. But anyway, these dumb Rathburn stats got to go. You're basing it off of things that happened decades ago. So, and Hall of Famers, yeah, I hope they have more Hall of Famers considering there's like 50 more years worth of Bears football. But anyway, the big stat I have, Miami has been
Who you got?
very good against opposing quarterbacks this year. Even when they went up against the Patriots, they did get beat pretty bad. But it's not like Brady lit the world on fire. It was more Sony Michel and the running game, and they turned over Brady a couple times. So I think they're going to put a lot of pressure on Trubisky, and if the Bears are smart, they will run the ball because that is where the Dolphins have been very weak, stopping the opposing team's running games. But Matt Nagy maybe thinks he's too smart, maybe thinks he can win the game however he wants to do it, however he game plans it. And I think ultimately this is going to be, I think it's going to be a good game. I know I'm hearing a lot of stuff about the Dolphins maybe, following that bad loss this past Sunday to the Bengals, blowing a huge lead, allowing the Bengals to score 27 unanswered. That's all fine and dandy, but Miami going home, I like their chances going back home to Miami. And the Bears do have the bye week coming off of that, so that does scare me. But, of course, I'm going to take Miami here.
We realize that.
Yeah, and the only reason I'm going to do that is because...
You got nothing else to do. You got nothing else to do.
The only reason I'm going to do that is because...
you got nothing else to do.
A case of beer.
You bet your ass.
All right.
And I want some fucking Moon Man.
Well, I can't get you a case.
Oh.
I don't have a case of Moon Man. I'm not going to Wisconsin.
Well, I would like the case of the most expensive beer in the world.
Man, I hope the Dolphins kick the shit out of them.
Hey.
I'm not even going to show up next week. This is going to be a blank spot, and you're going to know why it's blank.
Yeah. This is going to be fucking Adam Gase. I thought that said rim job.
So, Brendan, I guess you're taking the Bears?
Yeah, Bears off a bye week, extra time to prepare. I think Jordan Howard has a big game. I think the Bears do focus on running the ball a little bit more. So if that's where your Dolphins are weak, I'd like the Bears regardless. Who the hell am I kidding? But yeah, Bears.
Well, you know where we're at. The Bears are going to definitely win this.
But when Miami plays at home wearing all white, they are 13-3 in their last 16 games. So, all white uniforms.
Well, folks, we appreciate all the banter this week. We appreciate Brendan coming out from Chicago to take out Brad. It's been a great show. Why don't you let them know how they can get a hold of us, because it's going to be a bear celebration at the end of the week.
Get on Twitter. We're on Twitter at fantasy_hustle. You'll see our email and our voicemail line. Email is Jon G's Fantasy Hustle at gmail.com.
Still waiting for a message.
And the voicemail, still waiting for a message as well. 219-576-6797. You'll see all that on our Twitter page. Check it out.
See you next time when the Bears are